All right, first of all, they define direct variation, a linear function defined by an equation of the form y equals kx, where k does not equal 0, represents direct variation. What they are saying is your y directly varies to x if the only thing you're doing to the x is multiplying it by something, okay? So if you have y equals mx plus b, the only way that is a direct variation is if your b is 0. It can only be multiplied by something to be considered direct variation. It can be multiplied by anything. But to get from x to y, the only way you can get from x to y for direct variation is by multiplying. All right, that's all they're saying. The k, or the constant in front of the x, is called the constant of variation. Constant of variation. So you do need to know those terms. Direct variation in your book is where you have y equals kx, and that's the only thing you're doing to x. And the constant of variation is that k that's in front of the x. So the first example that they give us is determine whether y varies directly with x. If it does, find the constant of variation. All right. So if you have the direct variation, basic is y equals kx, then if this set of information directly varies, that k will be the same for every single one of those. All right. So the easiest way to do this is say, well, then what is k? So if I were to look at this equation right here and say, how do I solve for k? What would you do to get k by itself? Yeah, I'm going to divide by x. So k is going to equal y divided by x, right? Y divided by x. So all I have to do on this a and this b is take y divided by x and see if they're all the same thing. All right, and so let's look at the first one. Y divided by x. What is that? There we go. Y divided by x for the second set. And then y divided by x for the third set. If these are all the same, the answer is yes, it directly varies. And the constant of variation is 4. So yes, those directly vary. And the constant of variation is 4. All right? Think of it as almost like a ratio. Make sense? Let's look at B. All right, for B, my y divided by x is, yeah, not 4, right? My y divided by x is also not 4, right? Okay?
Could you just stop at like the 3?
Yes. If one of them doesn't match up, then it's not going to be a direct variation. So this is going to be a no. And that is your answer. It will not have a constant because it is a constant of variation. And so if it doesn't directly vary, it will not have a constant. Make sense? All right, try A, B, and C at the bottom of page 72. All right, let's look at these. First one, does it directly vary? That's the first question. Yes or no? Yes, and what is the constant of variation? 1/3. 1/3. All right. So the way they write it here, by the way, if you have figured out that it directly varies and they want the equation, which is what this is actually asking for right here, you literally just rewrite that with your constant of variation. So the equation for that would look like this. So once you find your constant of variation, if they want the equation, then you just fill it in the k in, because that's what you have found. All right, just fill in the k. So what about B? Does B directly vary? No, it does not. What about C? No, it does not. All right. Any questions on that? All right, let's look at the top of page 73. Example 2, top of page 73. So the first way we did it is they gave us a list of points pretty much, and they said, is this a direct variation? And you figured it out. Now they're actually going to give us an equation, and they're going to say, does this equation represent a direct variation? All right. So let's look at the first one, 3y equals 2x. We are looking for, is it in the form of y equals kx, or can it be? All right. So for this first one, is it in the form y equals kx? No. Can it be? How would I put it into the form of y equals kx? Yeah, I'm going to divide by 3. All right, so we have y equals 2/3 x. So then what would be my constant of variation there? Yeah, a constant would be 2/3. What about B? Is B in the form y equals kx?
Well,
No. Can it be? No, there's nothing I can do with that 3. If I subtract it, it's going to subtract from the other side, right? And so this does not directly vary. These are very simple. When it's given to you like this, don't overthink it. It's a yes or no, and if it's a yes, what's the constant? All right, so try A, B, and C. And D, actually. First one, does it directly vary? Yes, what's my constant? 1/2 or 0.5. I would actually write it as 1/2 personally. All right, what about the second one? Does it directly vary? No, it does not. What about the third one? Does it directly vary? Yes. What's your constant? Yeah, 5/2. What about the last one? Does it directly vary? No, it does not.
wait, why does
So if we look at A, we can write this y equals 1/2 x. That's the same thing as x over 2. And so that 1/2 is your constant there. A dripping faucet wastes a cup of water if it drips for 3 minutes. The amount of water wasted varies directly with the amount of time the faucet drips. Obviously, this is based off of like how fast it's dripping, but this particular faucet wastes a cup of water if it drips for 3 minutes. The amount of water wasted is a direct variation. So when you see the words in a word problem, directly varies, they are giving you the equation. Because if it directly varies, your equation is going to be y equals kx. When they say the word directly varies, it's y equals kx, all right? Find the constant variation k and write an equation to model the direct variation. Water wasted varies directly with time. All right, so water wasted, that is going to be my y. Varies directly, time is going to be my x, all right? So when they say it that way, the amount of water wasted, right? They have those words here. And then they say varies directly, there we go, and then with the amount of time. They have set that equation up for you is what they have done with those words, all right? And so they want us to write an equation, so we have to find the k. What they have actually given us is they've given us an x and a y. All right, water wasted. How much water is wasted? What did they tell us in the first sentence? A cup of water. All right, so 1 cup of water we know is wasted. We don't know k, but we know the time. Where did they tell us the time? 3 minutes right here. So we know it looks like that. So then what is k? K is going to be 1/3. If they want the equation, what am I going to do? What's the equation look like then if I just solve for k? Y equals what? 1/3 x. So this is the answer to the first part, write an equation, right? And then they said find how long it takes, for them to waste 4 and 2.5 cups of water, 4.5 cups of water. So I have the equation and I have one of my variables. Which variable did they give me? Y or x? Yeah, they gave me the amount of water. So I have 4.5 should equal 1/3 times x, right? How do I solve this? Yeah, divide by a third, multiply by 3. I will say either change it to an improper fraction or understand how multiplying a mixed number works. You're basically distributing, okay? And so it can be very confusing if you multiply a mixed number because you're technically distributing between the 4 and the 1/2. And then you get like 12 and 3/2, and then you have to convert it to an actual mixed number. So it's actually easier to convert this guy right here. What is 4.5 as an improper fraction?
9/2.
Yeah, so it's easier to do it here because if not, you're going to get a very confusing little thing going on. So times 3, what am I going to get?
13.5.
Yeah, I'm going to get 27/2, which is 13.5 what? What was I looking for? Yeah, minutes. All right, 13.5 minutes. All right, let's look at this. Little did you know that you learned direct variation last year. Circumference of a circle is pi times diameter. This means that the circumference directly varies with the diameter, right? So then what is my constant of variation here? Pi. Pi is my constant of variation here. Find the diameter of a circle with a circumference 105 centimeters to the nearest tenth. What you get? 33.4 centimeters. 33.4. So if circumference is 105, 105 equals pi times diameter, then you're just going to divide both sides by that pi to get the diameter. All right. And if you use 3.14, you may have gotten something different. Pi in your calculator is going to go on as long as the calculator will, to whatever decimal place the calculator will take pi. Suppose y varies directly with x and x equals 27 when y equals negative 51. Find x when y equals negative 17. And they just actually set it up for you. Yours will not set it up for you. So if they just want you to find x when y is something, you can just use proportions, all right? We know that y over x, if we have a direct variation, which they tell us, suppose that we do, then we know that k is always going to be y over x. So every y over x should equal the same exact thing, right? So that means that this y over x should equal this y over x should equal this y over x in a direct variation, okay? It should equal the same thing, which means we can set up ratios and solve it with cross multiplication. If they want you to write an equation, you need to solve for k. So not only do you need to solve for whatever they're asking for, you also need to solve for k and say y equals kx. So pay attention to your instructions here. If your instructions say find the equation and then find what happens when x is this, find y or whatever, do both. So just pay attention to your instructions because you'll see both of these. In this case, they just want you to find x when y is negative 17. So set up a proportion. We have y over x. We know our second y. We do not know our second x. So how do I solve that? Yeah, cross multiplication, right? That's all you have to do here. All right, so cross multiply here. So we have 27 times negative 17 equals negative 51 times x. So we have 27 times negative 17 over negative 51 equals x. All right, it is going to be a whole number there. What does x equal?
9.
There we go. All right, A, what'd you get for that one? 8. You should have gotten 8. Oh, it's not letting me. I did such a good job. There we go. All right, what about B?
28.
What about C? Yes, negative 0.6, or if you left it as a fraction, what, negative 3/5? Negative 1/5, or 0.2 for the last one.
Wait, positive.
Positive, not negative. I said, did I say negative? Yeah,
Yes.
it's positive.